Have you ever felt like you were standing in a long hallway, waiting for a door to open that seemed permanently locked? You might have started to believe that the delay you were experiencing was actually a final no from the universe. But what if I told you that the delay was never a denial? What if everything in your life actually shifted weeks or even months ago, before you even had a chance to notice? The announcement regarding your future has already been delivered, and it didn't need your permission to change your destiny. You aren't reading these words by some random stroke of luck or a glitch in an algorithm. You are here because your soul is ready to hear a truth that your physical eyes haven't seen yet. There are specific seasons in life where the divine doesn't move with a loud shout or a grand spectacle. It doesn't always send a warning, and it certainly doesn't stop to negotiate with your current fears. Sometimes heaven moves with a quiet, surgical decisiveness that bypasses your conscious mind entirely. This is one of those profound moments. A declaration has already been made concerning your path. It wasn't done to confuse you or to put you through another grueling test of faith. Instead, it was done to position you in a place of influence and peace that you simply could not reach through your own hard work or human effort alone. If you've been feeling a strange, heavy pressure lately that makes absolutely no sense, today is the day you find out why. You might have been dealing with an uncomfortable silence from people you trust, or a sudden, urgent feeling deep in your gut that tells you to move, even when the world around you looks completely stationary. This inner fire is pushing you toward a finish line that you didn't even know was there. At the center of this spiritual movement is the energy of Archangel Gabriel, the messenger of divine news. This energy steps in when heaven decides that your preparation is officially complete and that any further delay is no longer an option for your growth. Before we dive deeper into what this means for your daily life, I want you to take a second to just breathe. Pause and anchor yourself in this moment, because your intuition is likely already buzzing. If this message feels like it was written specifically for your situation, I want you to engage with it. Like this post, subscribe to stay connected to this energy and drop a 99 in the comments. In spiritual circles, the number 99 represents that critical moment of completion right before the overflow begins. It is the final second before a promise becomes a visible reality. By doing this, you aren't just typing numbers. You are aligning your physical actions with a spiritual declaration that has already been spoken. The protocol of the unseen before anything physical changes in your bank account, your relationships, or your health. Something irreversible is spoken in the unseen realm. This isn't just a poetic way of looking at life. It is a spiritual protocol. Heaven never waits for your bank statement to look ready or for your emotions to feel logical before it acts. Readiness is measured by your alignment, not your comfort. What you are going through right now is simply the aftermath of a decision that happened outside of time and human approval. This explains why your surroundings might look the same, yet everything inside you feels alert, awake, and slightly unstable in a way you can't quite describe. When a divine announcement is made, it doesn't look for confirmation from your current reality. In fact, reality is usually forced to reorganize itself to fit the new announcement. This is exactly why manifestation often feels delayed to the naked eye. The announcement is the primary cause, while the physical manifestation is just the consequence. And as we know, consequences don't rush. They unfold with a very specific mathematical precision. This is why you've felt movement without any physical proof, pressure without a clear source, and a sense of expectation that keeps you up at night even when your common sense tells you to give up. This announcement wasn't designed to make you feel comfortable or cozy. Its job was to activate systems, relationships, and timelines that have been sitting dormant until this exact second. Once a word is spoken in the spiritual realm, it begins to pull on every person and every opportunity connected to your name. It doesn't matter if those people are ready or not, they are being pulled into your orbit. This is why some doors in your life didn't just stay shut, they started shaking. It's why the tone of conversations around you has subtly shifted, and why some people have suddenly moved away while others are gravitating toward you with strange intensity. The exposure of alignment and announcement from a higher power is never neutral. It acts like a high-powered light that exposes what can move forward with you and what must stay behind. That exposure often feels unsettling because it rips away illusions without giving you a head start. You might have experienced moments where a goal was almost reached, only to have it stall at the last second. That wasn't a setback, it was a recalibration. Heaven wasn't asking for permission from your environment, it was issuing a formal notice. And once a notice is served in the spiritual realm, nothing is allowed to stay the same, even if it tries to pretend otherwise. These announcements are often kept quiet at first, because noise attracts interference. You weren't told the full plan immediately because clarity often comes in fragments to protect the process. If you had known the scale of what was coming 6 months ago, you might have tried to micromanage the details or control things that were never meant to be handled by you. Instead, the announcement went ahead of you. It cleared paths you didn't know existed and forced decisions in rooms where your voice has never even been heard. This is what makes your current situation different from every other waiting period you've endured. This time, the announcement didn't ask for more time. It marked a total transition. It created a before and an after in your life's book, even if the page hasn't fully turned in your physical experience. Some of the things you are still desperately holding on to actually belong to your past now, even if they haven't physically disappeared yet. That tension you feel isn't confusion, it's the process of separation. Once the unseen work of an announcement is finished, your breakthrough stops being a maybe and becomes an inevitable. But before it becomes visible to the world, it must first become uncomfortable for you. Crossing the threshold timing in the spirit is not guided by your Google Calendar, your emotions, or your sense of urgency. It is governed by thresholds. Today marks the moment a major threshold in your life was finally crossed. This shift didn't happen because you asked a certain number of times or because you were perfect in your behavior. It happened because the resistance against you reached its maximum capacity. There is a limit to how much a breakthrough can be contained, and you have reached that limit. Opposition eventually stops being a barrier and starts becoming a reveal, and you are standing at that point right now. What was hidden behind years of delay, silence, and frustration has reached a saturation level. It can no longer remain unspoken without the old system collapsing entirely. This is why everything feels sharper today. The air feels more charged, and your intuition is screaming at you. Your patience over the last few years wasn't passive, it was compressive. Every time you chose not to react to a hater, and every time you stayed the course when it would have been easier to quit, you were building up spiritual pressure. Endurance is a force sustained over time, and sustained force always triggers a massive movement. Heaven didn't speak just because it felt generous today. It spoke because your endurance created a legal right for divine intervention to occur. Most people don't realize that spiritual silence isn't absence, it's accumulation. Today, that accumulation reached its breaking point. This announcement could only happen right now, not yesterday when you weren't ready, and not next week when the opportunity might have passed. If this had happened any earlier, you wouldn't have had the spiritual muscles to carry the weight of the blessing. If it had happened later, the hearts of those meant to help you might have hardened. The power of recognition. This announcement has changed your status. It has moved you from waiting to active consideration, and from being overlooked to being officially recognized. Recognition always disturbs systems that were built on the idea of ignoring you. That disturbance you see in your life isn't chaos, it is a consequence. You didn't force this door open by kicking it down. You forced it by lasting. Your ability to remain intact while life tried to erode your spirit sent a signal to heaven that was louder than any prayer. It proved that you have the capacity to carry the weight of what is coming next. Because you have proven your capacity, the announcement was released precisely and permanently. Today is a line in the sand that was crossed without asking if you felt ready to see the other side. Once that line is crossed, a new shift begins that makes pretending impossible. You might notice life behaving differently, not in a big, cinematic way, but in subtle, suspicious ways. It's like a calm before a storm, but a good storm. This is the first sign that conversations about your promotion or your healing have already taken place in rooms you haven't entered yet. Have you noticed how certain problems that used to require massive effort are now starting to loosen on their own? It's as if an invisible hand is removing the friction. You might feel a sudden clarity where there used to be a fog of war. This strange mix of peace and urgency isn't a contradiction. Calm appears when uncertainty loses its power over you. Urgency appears because movement is now unavoidable. These feelings don't arrive together by accident. They only show up when a decision has been finalized in the higher realms. Heaven is altering your environment, and your environment is reacting before you do. The ripple effect of silence, you are likely feeling lighter, without any external relief, and focused without a specific strategy. You aren't just being comforted. You are being informed through the very atmosphere around you. These are the aftershocks of a declaration that has already traveled through the unseen layers of your life. This is also why people around you are acting off. They sense the shift long before they have the words to describe it. Someone might have distanced themselves because they subconsciously realize they can't go where you're headed. Others might reach out because they feel the pull of your new authority. When heaven speaks, confusion doesn't just vanish, it collapses. What once felt like a heavy burden now feels like an inevitable step. You may have noticed that the things you used to fear don't provoke the same panic anymore. The anxiety hasn't necessarily left, but it has lost its credibility. Fear only survives when the outcome is undecided. Once a matter is settled at a higher level, fear becomes nothing more than outdated information. Your intuition is sharpening not because you're learning more, but because you need less confirmation from the outside world to know you're on the right track. Even your physical body is responding to this announcement. You might find your sleep patterns changing or your energy levels shifting in waves. Moments of sitting in stillness might feel more productive than a 10-hour workday. These physiological shifts are reliable indicators that something massive has been set in motion. Your nervous system is adapting to a new reality before your logical mind has even read the memo. You can feel that something is approaching without rushing, like a door that is no longer stuck, just waiting for the perfect moment to swing wide open. Strategic insulation, the sense of inevitability you feel, isn't just optimism. It's a soul-level recognition. You are realizing that what once required breaking effort now simply requires readiness. The aftershocks you're feeling are the tremors before the blessing becomes visible to the public. Some announcements are meant to be heard, but this one was meant to work. It wasn't meant to travel through gossip or social media. It was meant to travel through systems of authority that operate quietly and efficiently. Strategic announcements don't need applause. They need a reaction, and reaction is much more useful for your growth. You weren't kept in the dark because you were unimportant. You were kept in the dark because you were the centerpiece. When a shift concerns your permanent position rather than just your temporary comfort, silence becomes a form of divine protection. Information given too early invites the opinions and sabotage of people who aren't ready for your rise. The silence you experienced wasn't emptiness, it was insulation. While you felt overlooked, permissions were being adjusted in the background. Authority doesn't announce itself to an empty room. It rearranges the furniture first. Repositioning is permanent, whereas impressing people is temporary. When God announces something about you, the first people to hear it are often your opposition. They have spiritual sensors that detect movement in authority long before you see the results. This is why the pressure intensified recently. It was a reaction to your promotion, not an attack on your character. Attacks happen when things are uncertain, but reactions happen when something has already been decided. You aren't under fire. You are being reacted to because the enemy knows the announcement has already gone out. The final alignment. You might have felt isolated lately, as if a glass wall was placed between you and the rest of the world. That feeling was accurate. Strategic shifts don't center on your emotions, they center on the structural outcome. Your own questions and doubts would have only slowed the process down, so the silence remained until your new position was secured. Now that the repositioning is in effect, the silence is beginning to thin out. This message is your confirmation phase. Confirmation never arrives by itself. It arrives with consequences that make it impossible for you to go back to your old life. Once an announcement is released, the only question left is how the rest of reality will respond. There is no undo button in the spirit. When a divine statement is issued, reality enters a mandatory adjustment phase. This isn't always a gentle process. Your circumstances will begin to bend and target the areas of your life that were never meant to stay the same. Things that seemed stable might start to feel fragile, while things that resisted you will suddenly lose their power. People will begin to choose sides because staying neutral in the face of your new alignment will become too uncomfortable for them. You will notice opportunities that once required force now inviting you in with a whisper. Detours that felt like permanent roadblocks will simply dissolve. Some paths will close forever, and you shouldn't apologize for that. Many people make the mistake of thinking this closure is a punishment, but it's actually a release. After a divine announcement, trying to grind or hustle becomes inefficient. You don't have to chase what has already been authorized for you. You just have to position yourself to receive it. Alignment isn't just sitting back, it's cooperating with the direction that keeps presenting itself to you. Walking into the prepared alignment is more demanding than simple desire. Desire just wants the prize, but alignment demands that you be honest about what you're still carrying. You have to let go of the habits and attachments that worked in your waiting season, but are toxic in your winning season. This is where most people hesitate because they fear the unfamiliar. But once you align, resistance loses all its leverage. What was heavy becomes directional, and what was confusing becomes a clear sequence of steps. The environment is watching to see if you will act like the person you are becoming before the results show up. This isn't a test of your worth. It's a confirmation of your trust. When you trust the announcement more than the current reality, you trigger the final shift. The one that doesn't need words. It just arrives and changes how the entire world perceives you. In that moment, doubt will finally lose its voice, not because you have all the answers, but because the truth will be louder than your fear. You were never late, and you certainly weren't forgotten. You were being prepared to carry a weight of glory that would have crushed the old version of you. What was spoken over your life today doesn't need permission from your past, your mistakes, or your critics. It only requires your willingness to receive it without flinching. Don't hesitate now that you're at the edge of the breakthrough. Stand still, feel the weight of the old season lift off your shoulders and breathe. You are no longer chasing the dream has caught up to you. Step forward with total certainty because the path ahead was prepared before you even knew how to ask for it. If you feel this truth in your bones, comment "I receive what was announced" to lock it in.